He died saving me. Now I must marry his alien wife to protect what he left behind. The dying promise. The transport shuttle rattled as it descended through Velthara's violet atmosphere, and Lieutenant Marcus Webb gripped the armrest until his knuckles went white. 3 days. That's how long it had taken him to get clearance to reach this remote corner of the frontier. 3 days since he'd received the message that Dr. Ethan Vale was dead. Ethan, his mentor, his friend, the man who'd pulled him from the wreckage of his crashed ship 5 years ago and given him purpose again. Gone in an instant, they said. Equipment malfunction at the research station. But Marcus knew Ethan. The man triple-checked everything. It didn't sit right. The station emerged from the mist as they landed. A cluster of prefabricated domes nestled against crystalline cliffs that glowed faintly in the twilight. Marcus stepped off the shuttle into air that tasted of ozone and something sweet he couldn't name. His uniform felt too tight, too formal for a place Ethan had described as paradise at the edge of nowhere. The station commander, a gruff woman named Kellis, met him at the landing pad. "Lieutenant Webb, I'm sorry for your loss. Dr. Vale spoke highly of you." "Where is she?" Marcus asked, his voice rough. Kellis's expression shifted, something between pity and warning. "The widow is in the main habitat. But, Lieutenant, there are complications you should know about." "What complications?" "Just be prepared. Velothian customs are different. The main habitat was larger than the others, its walls decorated with flowing patterns that seemed organic rather than manufactured." Marcus's heart hammered as Kellis led him inside. The interior was dimly lit, filled with furniture that curved in ways human designs never did. And there, standing by the wide viewport overlooking the valley, was a figure that made Marcus's breath catch. She turned slowly, and he found himself staring at the most striking woman, no person, he'd ever seen. Her skin was a deep purple that seemed to shift in the light, darker along her shoulders and arms, lighter at her throat. Her hair fell in midnight waves past her shoulders and her eyes. They were large and luminous, a silver gold that caught the fading sunlight like molten metal. She wore a flowing garment that reminded Marcus of water, and moved with a grace that was distinctly alien, distinctly beautiful. "You are Marcus," she said, her voice melodic with an accent that softened the consonants. "Ethan told me much about you. Yes, I'm Marcus Webb." He swallowed hard, forcing himself to look away from those extraordinary eyes. "I'm so sorry about Ethan. He was my husband, my love, my light." Her voice broke slightly on the last word, and Marcus saw her hands tremble before she clasped them together. "He asked me before the end to send for you. There is something you must know, Marcus Webb, something about our ways that affects you now." Kellis cleared her throat. "I'll leave you two to talk. Lieutenant, my office is open if you need anything." She departed quickly as if eager to escape. Lirana, he realized he should think of her by name, moved toward a low table and gestured for him to sit. Instead of chairs, there were cushions that adjusted to his weight when he lowered himself onto one. She sat across from him, her movements fluid and deliberate. "By Velothian law," she began, her accent making each word careful and precise, "when a bonded partner dies, their holdings and legacy pass only to someone who bears witness through union. Without this, the council may claim everything. The research, this home, even—" She touched her stomach briefly and Marcus's eyes widened, even the memory of what was. "You're saying I need to marry you? To protect Ethan's work?" "Yes." She met his gaze steadily, though he could see the pain behind her composure. "It is ceremony only, a legal bond. I do not ask for more. But without it, Elder Moravis of the council has already filed claim. He will take everything Ethan worked for, everything we built together." Marcus ran a hand through his dark hair, his mind reeling. This morning he'd been on a starship planning supply routes. Now he was sitting across from an alien widow who needed him to become her husband in name. "Ethan wanted this?" "He did." With his last breath he said, "Call Marcus. He will understand duty. He will protect what matters." Her voice wavered. "I know this is much to ask, but you are the only one I trust, the only one he trusted. Duty." The word was a weight Marcus had carried his whole life, through every mission, every loss, and now it asked him to bind himself to a stranger, a beautiful, grieving stranger whose eyes held depths he couldn't begin to fathom. "When?" he asked quietly. Relief flickered across her features. "Tomorrow, if you consent." The ceremony is simple. And then you are free to leave if you wish. I ask only that you maintain the legal bond until the child is born, and the council's interest fades. Child. Ethan's child. Another reason to say yes, though Marcus's mind still spun with questions. What had Ethan been researching? Why was the council so interested? And why did looking at this woman make his chest ache with something beyond sympathy? I'll do it, he said finally. For Ethan and for you. Lyrana bowed her head, a gesture of gratitude that seemed to carry centuries of tradition. Thank you, Marcus Webb. You honor my husband's memory and grant me peace. But as Marcus lay in the guest quarters that night, staring at the unfamiliar stars through the dome's transparent ceiling, peace was the last thing he felt. Tomorrow he would marry a woman he'd just met, from a species he barely understood, to protect the legacy of a dead man he'd loved like a brother. And somewhere in the darkness, he could almost hear Ethan's voice. Trust me on this one, Marcus. Just trust me. The stars offered no answers, only their cold, distant light. The Velothian bonding ceremony was simpler than Marcus had imagined, and somehow more profound. They stood in the station's observation dome at dawn, with only Kellys and a Velothian elder named Sira as witnesses. Lyrana wore robes of deep indigo that made her purple skin seem to glow, and she'd woven silver threads through her dark hair. Marcus wore his dress uniform, feeling stiff and out of place as Sira spoke words in a language that sounded like wind through crystal chimes. When prompted, he and Lyrana each pressed their palms together, and he felt warmth spread from her skin to his, not uncomfortable, but startling in its intimacy. By witness of stars and soil, you are joined, Sira intoned in standard. What was separate is now one path. And just like that, Marcus Webb was married. The days that followed were awkward in ways he hadn't anticipated. The habitat was large enough that they could avoid each other, but Velothian design favored open spaces and flowing rooms. He'd turn a corner and find her tending the bioluminescent plants that grew along the walls, or preparing food in the kitchen area, moving with that unsettling grace. She was unfailingly polite, always asking if he needed anything, if his quarters were comfortable. He responded in kind, keeping conversations brief and formal. At night he heard her sometimes through the walls, soft sounds that might have been crying, though she never showed tears during the day. A week passed. Marcus spent his days reviewing Ethan's research files, looking for something, anything that would explain the accident. The energy modulation work was brilliant but incomplete, with several encrypted sections he couldn't access. He found himself frustrated, restless, unable to shake the feeling that he was missing something crucial. One evening, he found Lyrana in Ethan's study, surrounded by boxes of personal effects. She held one of Ethan's old jackets, pressing it to her face, her shoulders shaking. For a moment, Marcus froze, unsure whether to retreat or approach. Then he remembered his own grief when his parents died, how the kind words meant nothing compared to simple presence. He sat down beside her on the floor, careful not to touch, but close enough that she'd know he was there. Tell me about him, he said softly. Tell me about Ethan here with you. I only knew the researcher, the soldier. I want to know who he was with you. Lyrana lowered the jacket, those luminous eyes wet with tears that caught the light like liquid silver. He was terrible at cooking, she said with a small, broken laugh. He would try to make Velothian dishes and burn them every time, but he never stopped trying. That sounds like him, stubborn. Yes, she smiled through her tears, and kind, so kind. When we met, I was not accepted by many, a Velothian who chose a human. But Ethan, he never saw the differences as barriers, only as things to learn, to celebrate. Marcus found himself sharing memories too, how Ethan had talked him through panic attacks after the crash, how he'd recommended Marcus for officer training when everyone else thought he was washed up. The words flowed easier than expected, and somewhere in the telling, Lyrana's hand found his. Her touch was warm, her palms smooth against his calloused fingers. Neither of them pulled away. He loved you like a brother, Lyrana said quietly. He told me that saving you was one of the best things he'd ever done, that you had a good heart beneath the armor you wore. Marcus's throat tightened. I should have been here. Should have visited more, should have. No. Her grip on his hand strengthened. Ethan knew you carried your own burdens. He never asked more than you could give. She paused, then added, but I think he hoped that perhaps in protecting me, you might find something you needed too. Their eyes met and Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a crack in the wall he'd built around himself. He saw not just a beautiful alien woman, but a person grieving the same man he mourned, someone who understood loss in a way few others could. "I'm glad I came," he whispered. "As am I." They sat together until the stars filled the viewport, hands linked, sharing the silence that grief required. And when Lyrana finally stood to retire, Marcus felt the absence of her touch like a physical ache. That night, he dreamed of purple skin and silver eyes, and woke feeling guilty and confused and more alive than he had in years. The morning brought new routines. Lyrana taught him to prepare surila, a Velothian breakfast drink that tasted like honey and starlight. He showed her how to fix the temperamental heating unit using techniques Ethan had apparently never mastered. They began eating meals together, conversations stretching beyond polite small talk into genuine exchanges. He learned that she was a botanist, that the glowing plants throughout the habitat were her work, species she'd hybridized between Velothian and human flora. She learned that he played guitar badly but enthusiastically, that he missed Earth's oceans, that he'd joined the military to escape a childhood of poverty and loss. 2 weeks after the ceremony, Marcus was reviewing files late at night when Lyrana appeared in the doorway wearing a sleep robe, her hair loose around her shoulders. "You should rest," she said gently. "Can't sleep. These encrypted files, there's something in them that matters. I can feel it." She moved closer, looking over his shoulder at the screen. Ethan was working on something he called Project Harmony. He said it could change everything between our peoples. But he was also worried. The last weeks he became secretive, cautious. Did he mention the council? Elder Moravas specifically? Lyrana tensed. Moravas came here once, demanded to see the research. Ethan refused. They argued. She wrapped her arms around herself. 3 days later, Ethan was dead. Marcus turned to face her fully, his instincts screaming that this was no accident. "Lyrana, I think someone killed him." The fear in her eyes told him she'd suspected the same. "Then we are both in danger." Without thinking, Marcus stood and pulled her into his arms. She stiffened for only a moment before melting against him, her head fitting perfectly beneath his chin. She was taller than human women, her build elegant and strong, and holding her felt both foreign and utterly right. "I won't let anything happen to you," he murmured into her hair, which smelled like the night-blooming flowers in her garden. "I promise." She pulled back just enough to look up at him, and the vulnerability in her expression made his heart clench. "Marcus, I must tell you something. These weeks with you, they have not been the burden I expected. You have been—" Whatever she was about to say was cut off by an alert screaming through the habitat systems. Marcus's military training kicked in instantly. "Stay behind me." They moved to the security panel. Someone was attempting to breach the outer perimeter. Multiple contacts moving toward the habitat with clear hostile intent. Marcus's blood ran cold. "Get to the safe room now. Not without you." "Lyrana, we face this together." Husband. The word carried weight this time. Not just legal formality, but something real and chosen. Whispers of conspiracy. The attackers came in the dead of night. 3 figures in unmarked armor moving with military precision. Marcus had killed the habitat's external lights, plunging everything into darkness except for the faint bioluminescence of Lyrana's plants. He crouched by the main entrance, a plasma rifle he'd found in Ethan's weapons locker, charged and ready. Lyrana was in the back corridor, armed with a smaller weapon, despite his protests. "I am Velothian," she'd said firmly. "We do not hide while others fight for us." The first attacker breached the door with a controlled charge. Marcus fired, the bolt catching the figure in the shoulder and spinning them back. The second rushed in low, faster than expected, but Marcus had fought in worse conditions. He dropped the rifle, drew his service pistol, and fired 3 shots center mass. The third attacker retreated, and Marcus heard the whine of a transport engine firing up. He wanted to pursue, but his priority was Lyrana. He found her pressed against the wall, her weapon steady despite the fear in her eyes. "It's over. They're gone." He checked the fallen attackers, both still alive but unconscious. Their armor bore no insignia, but the tech was expensive, military grade. "Someone sent professionals." Lyrana's hands shook as she lowered her weapon. "Moravas, it must be. We need proof." Marcus began stripping the attacker's gear, looking for anything identifying. That's when he found it. a small data chip hidden in one attacker's gauntlet. Got something. Back in the study, Marcus plugged the chip into Ethan's terminal. What he saw made his blood boil. Communications between Elder Moravis and a mercenary commander, detailing payment for recovery of Project Harmony assets and elimination of complications. They killed him, Lorana whispered, reading over his shoulder. They killed Ethan for his research. Marcus's jaw clenched. What exactly was Project Harmony? She moved to a wall panel, pressed her palm against it. A hidden compartment opened, revealing a crystalline device that pulsed with inner light. It's an energy harmonizer. It can create stable power from the quantum fluctuations between our species' different biological fields. Human and Velothian together can generate limitless clean energy. Separate, we produce nothing. The implications hit Marcus like a shockwave. That's why you and Ethan together. Yes, our bond was not just love. It was proof the technology worked. Proof that humans and Velothians are stronger together than apart. Her voice grew thick with emotion. Moravis and his faction fear this. They want our people separate, controllable. This technology threatens everything they've built their power on. Marcus stared at the device, understanding dawning. You're carrying Ethan's child. A hybrid child who could naturally generate the harmonic field, yes. The child is the living embodiment of what Project Harmony could achieve. She touched her stomach protectively. That's why Moravis wants me dead. I'm not just Ethan's widow, I'm proof his work succeeded. A surge of protective fury rose in Marcus. He'd agreed to this marriage as a formality, a duty to a fallen friend. But somewhere between shared grief and stolen glances, between her gentle laughter and the way she'd stood ready to fight beside him, this had become real. We need to disappear, he said. Tonight. There are safe houses in the wilderness. No. Lorana's eyes blazed with determination. Running proves nothing. We must expose Moravis, present the proof to the council. It's what Ethan would want. Ethan's dead because he tried to do the right thing, and we dishonor him by choosing fear over truth. She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the flecks of gold in her silver eyes. Marcus, I know you are afraid. I am afraid too. But I will not let Ethan's death be meaningless. I will not let his dream die. She was magnificent in her conviction, and Marcus knew he'd follow her into hell itself if she asked. Then we do this smart. We gather every piece of evidence, build an ironclad case, and we don't go to the council alone. We make it public, broadcast it across every comm channel in the sector. A small smile curved her lips. There is the tactical mind Ethan always praised. They worked through the night, downloading files, securing backups, preparing their case. As dawn approached, exhaustion finally caught up with them. Marcus found Lorana had fallen asleep at the terminal, her head resting on her folded arms. Gently, he lifted her. She was lighter than expected, despite her height, and carried her to her quarters. As he laid her on the bed, her eyes fluttered open. Stay, she whispered. Please, I don't want to be alone. Marcus knew he should refuse, should maintain the boundaries they'd carefully constructed. But the vulnerability in her voice, the way her hand reached for his, shattered his resolve. He lay down beside her on top of the covers, careful to maintain distance. Lorana shifted closer, resting her head on his chest. Her hand found his, fingers intertwining. When this is over, she murmured, already half asleep. When we are safe, I want to tell you something important. Tell me now, he said softly. Now I am too frightened you will think it is only fear talking. But it is not fear, Marcus. It is... She yawned, the motion somehow endearing. It is the opposite of fear. His heart hammered as he held her, feeling the warmth of her body against his, the gentle rhythm of her breathing. He wanted to say it too, that what he felt had grown beyond duty or honor into something far more dangerous and wonderful. Instead, he pressed a kiss to the top of her head, inhaling her unique scent of night flowers and something indefinably her. Sleep, I'll keep you safe. I know, she whispered. You always do. As she drifted off in his arms, Marcus stared at the ceiling and admitted the truth he'd been avoiding. He was falling in love with his wife. This woman who'd been a stranger weeks ago had become the center of his world, and the thought of losing her to Moravis's schemes made him want to burn the galaxy down. Tomorrow they would fight back. Tomorrow they would risk everything to expose the truth. But tonight, Marcus held Lorana close and let himself imagine a future where this wasn't just pretend. where the bond between them was as real and deep as the love she'd shared with Ethan. Outside, the first light of dawn painted the crystalline cliffs in shades of gold and amber. A new day was coming, and with it, choices that would change everything. Marcus closed his eyes, Lorana's heartbeat steady against his chest, and made a silent vow. Whatever happened next, he would protect her. Not because Ethan had asked, but because she had become his reason to keep fighting. At Shadows and Secrets, the warning came at midday, a coded message from Kellis. Maravis's forces incoming. Station compromised. Run, now. Marcus had 15 minutes to pack supplies before the first transport appeared on the horizon. He grabbed weapons, emergency rations, and the harmonizer crystal, while Lorana secured data backups. They fled through the habitat's rear exit into the wilderness of violet forests and crystalline canyons that stretched beyond the station. The terrain was treacherous, all sharp edges and sudden drops, but Lorana navigated it with innate grace, her purple skin blending with the shadows beneath the alien canopy. Marcus followed, his training keeping him close despite his unfamiliarity with the landscape. They ran for hours until his lungs burned and even Lorana's breathing came labored. Finally, she led him to a cave hidden behind a waterfall of luminescent liquid that wasn't quite water. Inside, the walls glowed softly with natural phosphorescence, creating an otherworldly sanctuary. Ethan and I found this place, Lorana said, her voice echoing softly. We would come here when we needed to escape the world. She touched the wall tenderly, lost in memory. Marcus set down their packs and activated a signal jammer. It would buy them a few hours at most. We can't stay long. Maravis will have trackers, drones. I know. She sank onto a smooth stone outcropping, exhaustion finally showing. But we need rest. Even soldiers must sleep. He wanted to argue, but she was right. They'd been running on adrenaline and fear for too long. He sat beside her, close enough that their shoulders touched, and for a moment they simply breathed together in the strange, beautiful silence. Marcus, Lorana said quietly, turning to face him. In the gentle light, her features seemed even more striking. The high cheekbones, the full lips, those eyes that held entire galaxies. Before I said I had something to tell you, I think now is the time. His heart began to race. Lorana, please, let me speak before courage abandons me. She took his hand in both of hers, her touch warm and grounding. These weeks with you have awakened something I thought died with Ethan. You are not him. You could never be him, and I would never want you to be. But you are good and brave and kind in your own way. You make me laugh. You make me feel safe. You make me feel alive, Marcus whispered, understanding completely. Yes. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. I know this marriage was meant to be false, a protection only. But for me, it has become real. You have become real to me, Marcus Webb, and I... He kissed her before she could finish, unable to hold back any longer. Her lips were soft and warm, and she made a small sound of surprise before melting into him. The kiss deepened, weeks of tension and longing pouring out between them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Lorana touched his face with trembling fingers. I was going to say that I love you, that I know it is too soon, that it may seem like betrayal of Ethan's memory, but it's not betrayal. Marcus covered her hand with his. Ethan wanted you to be happy. He wanted both of us to find peace. And he swallowed hard, years of emotional armor cracking away. I love you too. I think I started falling the moment I saw you standing in that viewport, so strong despite your grief. Every day since has only made it deeper. Lorana's tears spilled over, tracking silver paths down her purple cheeks. This is madness. We are hunted, in danger, and yet all I can think about is how much I want you. Then have me, Marcus said roughly, pulling her close again. Here now, in this moment, let's take something good from all this darkness. Their second kiss was hungrier, more urgent. Hands explored new territory. Marcus traced the elegant line of her neck, marveling at how her skin seemed to shimmer under his touch. Lorana's fingers worked at his jacket, pushing it off his shoulders with increasing confidence. They moved together to the cave floor, where Lorana had spread emergency blankets. In the phosphorescent glow, they undressed each other slowly, discovering the geography of different bodies, the way her muscles moved beneath purple skin, how his scars told stories she traced with gentle fingers. You're beautiful, Marcus breathed, taking in the sight of her. As are you, she replied. pulling him down to her. Their lovemaking was tender at first, exploratory, learning what made the other gasp or sigh, but urgency built between them, the knowledge that this moment might be all they'd have, that tomorrow could steal everything away. They came together with desperate passion, two souls seeking refuge in each other from a galaxy that wanted to tear them apart. Afterward, they lay entwined beneath the blankets, skin against skin, hearts gradually slowing to a synchronized rhythm. Marcus held Lyrana close, one hand resting protectively over her stomach where Ethan's child grew. "I will love this child as my own," he said quietly, "if you'll let me." Lyrana's breath hitched. "You would truly, yes, not to replace Ethan, but to honor him, and because any part of you is precious to me." He kissed her temple. "We'll be a family, Lyrana. If we survive this, we'll make a real life together." She turned in his arms to face him, her expression fierce with love and determination. "Then we will survive. We must." She kissed him deeply. "I have too much to lose now." They made love again, slower this time, savoring each touch and whispered word. And when exhaustion finally claimed them, they slept wrapped in each other, finding peace in the midst of chaos. Marcus woke to Lyrana shaking him urgently. Outside, the sound of engines echoed through the canyon. Maravis's forces had found them. "The crystal," Lyrana said, already dressed and packing. "We must protect it at all costs." Marcus grabbed his weapons, mind racing through tactical options. They were trapped in the cave with limited ammunition and no backup. But as he looked at Lyrana, his wife, his love, a desperate plan formed. "Can you activate the harmonizer? Make it broadcast?" Her eyes widened with understanding. "If we amplify the signal, every receiver in the sector would detect it. But Marcus, that much power while I'm pregnant, it could kill me. Or it could prove everything Ethan died for." He gripped her shoulders. "We broadcast the signal with the data files. Physical proof that human Velothian bonds create the harmonic field. Maravis can't hide from that." Outside voices shouted commands. They had minutes at most. Lyrana's hand covered her stomach, then reached for his. Together, always together, they positioned the crystal between them, holding hands over it. Lyrana began speaking in her native tongue, a resonant chant that made the crystal pulse with increasing light. Marcus felt energy flowing through their joined hands, warm, powerful, right in a way that transcended explanation. The cave blazed with brilliant light as the harmonizer activated fully. Through their link, Marcus felt Lyrana's presence in his mind, her love, her fear, her unshakable courage. And he sent back everything he felt for her, a wordless declaration that their bond was real and true and worth dying for. The signal burst outward like a supernova, carrying with it Ethan's research files, the evidence of Maravis's crimes, and undeniable proof that two species could create something miraculous together. Maravis's soldiers burst into the cave, weapons raised, but they froze, staring at the light show, at the two figures haloed in impossible energy. "Stand down," a new voice commanded, Elder Sira, the one who'd performed their bonding ceremony, followed by council guards. "By order of the full council, Elder Maravis is under arrest for murder and conspiracy." The light faded. Lyrana collapsed and Marcus caught her, terror spiking through him. "Lyrana," her eyes fluttered open, weak but alive. "Did we succeed?" "Yes," Sira said, approaching with a medical scanner. "The entire sector received your broadcast. Maravis's conspiracy is exposed. And your demonstration..." She looked at them with something like wonder. "You've proven everything Dr. Vale theorized. The child is well. You are both well. Rest now." As medics took over, Marcus held Lyrana's hand, refusing to let go. They'd survived. Against all odds, they'd won. The choice of the heart. The council chamber was packed with representatives from a dozen worlds, all gathered to witness the resolution of what the news feeds were calling the Harmony Conspiracy. Marcus stood beside Lyrana at the central platform, their hands clasped together, no longer for show but from genuine need for each other's touch. Elder Maravis sat in restraints, his expression twisted with fury and defeat. "You prove nothing," he spat. "One successful pairing does not change millennia of separation. Our species are meant to remain distinct. Our species are meant to choose their own paths." Elder Sira replied from her position at the council's head. Dr. Vale's research, combined with this demonstration of the living harmonic field, proves that human Volothian bonds create measurable, revolutionary energy signatures. This changes everything. A human ambassador stood. The implications for power generation, for deep space exploration, for colonization efforts, it's staggering. But beyond the practical applications, this proves something even more important, that our species complement each other in fundamental ways. Marcus felt Lyrana squeeze his hand. The past week had been a whirlwind. Debriefings, medical examinations, endless questions. Through it all, they'd remained together, their bond strengthened by everything they'd survived. The child, confirmed healthy and developing normally, was a constant reminder of what they fought to protect. The council has reviewed all evidence, Sira announced. Elder Maravis, you are found guilty of orchestrating the murder of Dr. Ethan Vale and the attempted murders of Lyrana Vale and Lieutenant Marcus Webb. You will be sentenced according to Volothian law. She paused, her gaze moving to Marcus and Lyrana. As for the matter of Project Harmony, the council recognizes its importance to both our peoples. Lieutenant Webb, Lyrana Vale Webb, you are granted full authority over Dr. Vale's research and findings. What you choose to do with this knowledge is yours to decide. After the session ended, Marcus and Lyrana retreated to the diplomatic quarters they'd been assigned. The space was nice but impersonal, and Marcus found himself missing the habitat with its glowing plants and memories of Ethan. What do we do? Now? Lyrana asked, standing at the window overlooking the council complex. Her profile was silhouetted against the setting sun, and Marcus's breath caught at her beauty. He moved behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, his hands resting over where their child, he'd started thinking of the baby as theirs, grew stronger each day. We have choices now, real ones. The military wants you back. I received 3 offers from research institutions. She leaned into his embrace. Everyone wants something from us. What do you want? Marcus asked, kissing her neck softly. She turned in his arms, those silver eyes searching his face. I want to go home, to the habitat. I want to raise our child where Ethan's memory lives, where your love took root. I want to continue the work, but slowly, on our terms. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I want to wake up beside you every morning and know that this is real, that we chose this. Marcus's throat tightened with emotion. I can resign my commission. The settlement offers compensation for what we went through, enough to live on while we work on Project Harmony. You would give up your career? The stars? I'd give up everything for you. He cupped her face gently. You and this child are my stars now. Everything else is just details. Lyrana kissed him, soft and sweet and full of promise. Then let us go home, husband. Let us build the life Ethan dreamed of, the one we've earned. 2 months later, Marcus stood in the garden habitat watching Lyrana tend her hybrid plants. Her pregnancy was beginning to show, a gentle curve beneath her flowing dress that made his heart swell with protective love every time he saw it. The past weeks had been spent rebuilding, both their home and their lives. They'd held a memorial for Ethan, inviting everyone who'd known him. Marcus had played guitar despite his shaking hands, and Lyrana had spoken of her husband's kindness, his vision, his sacrifice. They'd wept together and laughed, remembering his terrible cooking, and Marcus had felt something settle in his chest, permission perhaps to love Ethan's widow without guilt, to honor his memory by living fully. Come here, Lyrana called, gesturing to a new plant variety she'd cultivated. Look what bloomed. Marcus joined her, admiring the flower that somehow combined earth roses with Volothian crystal petals. It's beautiful, like you. She laughed, that musical sound he'd grown to treasure. You are becoming quite the romantic, Marcus Webb. You inspire me. He pulled her close, one hand finding its familiar place over their growing child. Have I told you today that I love you? Only 3 times. You're falling behind. She kissed him, playful and tender. I love you too. I love our life. I love that we chose each other, not because of duty or law, but because our hearts demanded it. A comm signal interrupted the moment. Elder Sierra requesting a meeting about officially launching Project Harmony as a joint human-Velothian initiative. Marcus groaned, but Lyrana smiled. Later, she said, silencing the comm. Right now, I want to be here with you in this moment, with no past hunting us and no future demanding our attention. Just us, Marcus agreed. Just us, she echoed. They stood together in the garden as the sun set, painting the sky in shades of violet and gold. Two people from different worlds, brought together by tragedy and bound by love. They'd lost so much. Marcus, his mentor, Lyrana, her first husband. But from that loss had grown something unexpected and precious. A second chance at happiness. A love that honored the past while embracing the future. The child stirred beneath Marcus's palm, a flutter of movement that made them both smile. This baby would be born into a galaxy that was slowly learning to bridge the gaps between species, to see connection as strength rather than weakness. And they would raise the child in love, surrounded by the memory of Ethan Vale and the reality of the family they'd built from grief. As stars began appearing overhead, Lyrana rested her head on Marcus's shoulder. "Do you think Ethan knows?" she asked softly. "That we're happy? That his sacrifice wasn't in vain?" Marcus thought of his friend, brilliant, kind, far-seeing Ethan, who'd brought them together with his final wish. "I think he planned this all along. I think he knew that if anything happened to him, the two people he loved most would take care of each other. He was always too clever for his own good," Lyrana said with affectionate sadness. "But yes, I think you're right. This was his final gift to us both." "Then we'll live it well," Marcus promised. "For him, and for us, and for all the tomorrows we'll have together." Lyrana turned to kiss him, and in that kiss was everything they'd survived, everything they'd become, and everything they'd yet to discover. Two hearts beating as one, two souls finding harmony in the spaces between stars. Inside the habitat, Ethan's research waited, ready to change the galaxy. But that could wait until tomorrow. Tonight was for celebrating life, love, and the incredible journey that had transformed strangers into soulmates. As they walked back inside, hand in hand, Marcus glanced up at the stars one last time. Somewhere up there, he liked to imagine Ethan was watching, satisfied that his final mission had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. "Thank you, old friend," Marcus whispered to the night. "For everything." The stars twinkled in response, and in Lyrana's laughter and their child's promise, Marcus heard all the answer he needed. They had found their harmony, and it was beautiful. The end.